Hello again, YouTube land. Today is Wednesday. On the Catholic Christian calendar, it is Ash Wednesday. So, the big news, as CNN tells me, is that the Pope shockingly resigned. Well, it's shocking to them. It's not shocking to a lot of us. Now, I will state freely up front, I am not Catholic. I am not Christian. I will state freely up front that I was not ever really a fan of the Pope and, in general, the Vatican. Now, as I've said many times before, and I will say again, I have no problems with people of faith. If your faith aligns yourself to monotheism, and it's monotheism in the form of Catholic doctrine, Christian doctrine, Jewish doctrine, or any other monotheistic belief system I'm not familiar with, then that's fine. It is. It really is okay. My biggest problem has always been with religious zealots. Believe what you want. But the day you start taking a book so seriously that you feel it necessary to violate and denigrate and deny the rights of any segment of people, you have less than zero credibility with me anymore. Period. That being said, I've been reading several things online from people whose opinions I actually respect, who are very public about being Catholic or being Christian. And most of them seem pretty pleased that the Pope is leaving the office, which is what it is. I mean, whether it's the cardinals or a group of people voting, votes are votes. It's an elected office. It's a different set of criteria for what's required of you, but it is an elected office. And most of them are pretty pleased that he's leaving it, because they feel for one reason or another that he's been leading in the wrong direction. Sorry, I've had my hair up most of the morning and it's a little painful. That for whatever reason, he's been leading in the wrong direction. And I gotta say, I agree with them. I agree with them, because that to me says that these particular people are people of faith more than they're people of religion. Because I don't personally understand a faith that would teach you to hate other human beings for being themselves. Okay? Now, on a somewhat connected tangent, I'm going to go here. Specifically in this case, I'm referring to how the church has treated the LGBTQ community, of which I, again, admit I'm proudly a part of. I'm going to connect this topic to Star Trek. Now, there's a reason. I know, I sound like I'm going on a wild, nerdy leap here, but give me a minute, okay? This world that we currently live on is wildly overpopulated. The resources this planet can offer us are violently overtaxed by the sheer multitude of our existence, okay? I'm not saying I'm going to give up my life. I'm not saying I won't have children in an effort to help the planet survive this. No. But one of the big lessons I think most of us have learned from Star Trek is that humanity can be more ecologically sound. We have the technology, we have the drive, we're naturally explorers. That's what we are. There's no reason we can't allow the greatest minds and the richest among us to put together the necessary components to create these things that will benefit all of us, from the most important human to the least important bug. They can get to, it's possible. It is possible for them to get together and just sort this all the fuck out. It's possible. Not likely, given how humans behave, but the possibility exists. You know, it's like theoretical physics. You know, it could happen. If this planet is going to continue to be as overpopulated as it is, then we need to start allowing for those capable and willing to raise the additional young to do so. Any nation, state, etc., that would deny financially stable, loving, adult people in stable, financially sound relationships and living environments from raising children needs to be fundamentally deconstructed and rebuilt. Because that makes no sense. You cannot allow for all of these health crises, for all of these people who are too physically young, emotionally young, and psychiatrically young to be bearing children, to do so, and then not take the one clearly active step towards the betterment and protection of those resulting children, and say, you know what? Can't do it. Can't do it. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. I don't care if you're talking about people who want to adopt, who are lesbian, who are gay, who are cisgendered, who are transgendered, who are transitioning. And the only concern I would have, I shouldn't call it a concern, it's not a concern. The only priority I would say a person in transition needs to account for is their own medical expenses and health risks. Because if you're going through transition in a surgical sense, it's very expensive from what I understand. It is very time consuming from what I understand. And if you want to have kids, that's fine. But I think that portion of your transition needs to be complete so that your time, energy, and finances can be focused on the child you want to raise. It's basic reality. It's the same on like the air flight manuals. They tell you, put the air mask over yourself, then attend to the child. Which seems kind of selfish, but you're the adult. If you're not well and continuing on, you cannot provide and protect the child. That's just basic. But I don't understand any group that would say, you know, we're going to let you have all these kids. We're going to encourage you to not prevent having children. But then we're not going to let the people who are capable of raising them, financially, emotionally, sustainably, raise them. That's just idiocy. Now, I'm connecting all these together through this series of events here. But here's what I mean. If we get rid of all of that nonsense, if we allow 100% fully, ideally as a planet, for the LGBTQ community to raise children, to adopt children, or go about having kids, whatever means they end up having kids. Overall, I think it gets us closer to Gene Roddenberry's dream. I really do, because if you really stop and think about it, it's a logical progression. As badly as we've handled it thus far, we have the capacity to handle it that much better. If we allow for anyone who meets financial requirements stability requirements. They can provide healthcare, they can provide shelter, they can provide food and education, and who can demonstrate a sound household. Now, here's one of those sticky wickets that gets a lot of political squawk. What is a sound and stable home? Okay, here's my definition. A home that involves 1, 2, or more people, which may or may not be parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whatever, that can provide the necessary communal environment of love and compassion that all children require, that can provide for all of the health, food, educational, shelter, clothing requirements that every child needs, and that can provide structure and stability in the sense that there is at least one, better off 2 people, that the child gets moral direction, direction on principles and ethics, and direction on right and wrong. That to me is a sound, stable household. Because a lot of people forget the saying, it takes a village. But honestly, it does. Look at some of the happiest, healthiest children around you. Look at some of the happiest, healthiest people you know. I'd be willing to bet most of them come from a childhood of a lot of relatives, a lot of friends, parents who were very clear on the rules, but weren't overly harsh if they made a mistake or broke a rule. If we allow for that for all of the children, ideally from this point forward, you wouldn't have the same exhibition of distrust and violence, in some situations disloyalty. You wouldn't see as much hate because no creature is born hating. Yes, in the animal kingdom you can make some arguments about natural predators, but among humans, it's not possible. The physiology is not wired that way. We cannot be born hating something. Hate is a taught situation. It has to be learned. So if you allow a greater proportion of these children, when they're a blank slate as an infant, grow up in an environment that teaches love and compassion and stability and is very family-centric, the number of social situations that could be rectified in a generation. In a generation. If that was a universally applied premise and thought. And that's not something that could ever happen when you have the kind of leader in something like the Vatican, such as the Pope, going around espousing these hyper old world traditionist viewpoints about gays and childbirth and, birth control. It can't happen. It can't. Now,